A perfect way to start in game development is starting with what you already know. It makes sense because that's how you would want to start, well, in many hobbies, professions, skill sets. To do that, I'm starting you off with some Battleship game. What we're going to do is walk through step by step how to do this. The assets, the 3D objects I created, they're free to use completely, and everything else asset-wise is Creative Commons 0. I'm going to go through every step. The code is linked in the description. What I'm demoing behind me is what we are about to make. What you're going to learn though is, well, level development. We're going to learn about raycasting and manipulating the objects, controlling the player, selecting tiles, dropping missiles. We're going to learn about randomization of placement, smarter enemies, lists of rays, and winning, hopefully. Let's dive in. What we're going to dive into first, of course, is laying out the game, getting the objects in place, getting the visuals set up, and everything organized so we can be well positioned to dive into the interactive content and the script needed to make this game work. We are making, obviously, a 3D game, and I'm going to get creative. Seeing that the battle something is copyrighted, I don't know what, I'm going to call this Battle Boats. I'm going to put the word tutorial, because it's, well, it's a tutorial. So I'll go ahead now and hit create. And now Unity will load. Boom, and here we are. Let me go ahead and full screen this. All right. Now we're in our scene. What I want to do first, actually, well, I want to load the assets, and I think I hid some, these are linked in the description. All of the assets for this game that I use are either Creative Commons 0, which is public domain, or I created them myself. So they are linked in the description. They're completely free to use. Please use them for this, abuse them, so on and so forth. That's looking good. Yeah, we'll pop up with that mesh thing. That is fine. It's actually a little bit of cleanup that it's doing for us. So thanks, Unity. Now I have my objects, my scenes, and HUD. Let's go ahead then and get this camera how I want. We're not going to use a skybox. We're going to be using a solid color, and I went with a greenish color. I'll probably change this up, but a minty-ish color for now should be awesome. And then for the canvas, we're going to do once we have some objects in this scene. Let me just make sure that all looks good. That's good. Yes, this will do nicely. Now let's go ahead and add some of those objects. So here are my objects. And let me just clear this. Thank you, Unity, for doing that. Great. All right. So here are my objects and miscellaneous. We're going to use water first. And it's water tile version 4 because, well, we had some fun times. And by we, I mean me. Let me just drop it out here. And I want it, though, 0x, 0y, 0z. And then I want it to be exactly -90. Should be great. This is going to be the board, kind of the background tile. So it's going to be very, very large. So to get that up to the right size, what I am going to do is with it selected, I'm going to say probably right around 1400, honestly. Now it looks super stretched out, and 1260 would be good. Let me take a look here. I'm going to want it something like this is looking good. So 1200, 1400, and maybe even cranking this up a smidge to something like this. Great, because we're going to lay our tiles on top of this. Also, I don't like this color so much, and what I had found I liked is a blue sapphire color. I'm not making that up. That's what it was called when I found it. I'm going to right-click and do Create, Folder, Materials. Okay. I'm going to dive in here. I'm going to right-click again and do Create and Material, and blue sapphire, if I can spell that right. And I'm sure you're dying. The color or the hex for it, right down here is where I'm going to put it, because that's where it goes. 175D77 is the color I liked. Blue sapphire. Now I just need to, whoop. Okay. Once I've done this, let's also get lighting out of the way. So for the whole game board, I want it to generate our lighting automatically. I'm going to go to Window, and then I'm going to do Rendering and Lighting. Window, rendering, lighting, and all I have to do is say auto generate. Click, And ta-da, it will take care of that for us. Perfect. And it should continue to do so. Let's rename this. I'm going to call this game board, we'll say. And with that renamed, that's looking awesome. The next step to this is adding all of our tiles. So let me check here. Yes. We will have to make adjustments to our game board in a second, and I'll show you why. But first, let's go ahead and grab out another tile, water tile, wherever, and I'm going to put it at 0, 0, 0. Now, I want this to be tile 1, and the naming of these tiles is essential, actually, because I'm going to use their names in the array and in string concatenation to loop through them. So you want to make sure to have it named just like I do, tile 1. I tried a variety of different ways doing this, right? Creating arrays, click and dragging them all into an array, a whole host of ways, using prefabs. This is the most straightforward method that I found in getting what we need accomplished. So tile 1, I want this to be the bottom left corner. So if this is the bottom left, I will have to move our game board something up and over, right? We want it to be bottom left. So let me click here. And I'm going to actually make it -0.1. So this is looking all right. Let's see, maybe 10.5. I want to give it a little bit of space, and then let me zoom in on tile 1. Zoom out a bit. So that is looking good for now. We might make adjustments. I'm going to drag tile 1 just right here. Yeah. Okay. So tile 1. What we need to do now is duplicate it. So duplicate. Now I need 100 tiles. Why, you might ask? Battleship has 100 tiles. That's why. So to do that, I'm going to use duplicate a lot. So here's tile 2. Now I want them to be lined up exactly. And I should double check. I want this to be -90. And then this is going to be -90. Except I want it 2.5 over to the right. It's just the number that I found that works the best. So tile 2, to move it to the right 2.5, I'm going to take X and say, 2.25. Let's double check how close they are. And see, that is a very nice setup. Let's make sure that it's sticking up enough. Yep, great. So I'm going to zoom back out. All right, so that's tile 2. And this is tedious, but it's the best way to make it exact. I'm going to right click. I'm going to duplicate. Tile 3, perfect. Now, we could do the math. Obviously, it's 4. But if I can also just do plus 2.25, and that way I know it's right even if my brain falls asleep on me. Duplicate. Plus 2.25. No, we're not going to do 100 of these, but you do want them exact. So we are going to do these 10, and then it gets a bit easier. Plus 2.25. I'll rush through the rest of these. I'm just adding 2.25 every time. And so this is looking nice. Now what we can do is I'm going to select all 10 of these, and we need them above as well. So I'm going to right click and do duplicate. Now what I need to do is on the y-axis add 2.2. Just kidding. On the z-axis add 2.25. Now we're only going to do one row at a time, because otherwise, like it was with this, it gets mixed up. You have to have them all have the same x and y axis for this to work. So let me click down. Perfect. Now let's double check. Yes, that should be 10, 11, 12. So what we're going to do now, it might seem strange, but now I'm going to grab tile 1 through tile 9 through tile 10, just kidding, and do duplicate on those. They should appear here. And once again, I'm going to do plus, except not 2.25. We would want to do plus 2.25 plus 2.25, or plus 4.5, right? We want a third row. It's going to be located at 4.5. Now the reason, let's see if it worked. It did. The reason I did it like this is it will automatically have them in order. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Whereas if you do the immediate row behind it, I was having issues where they would all be backwards. So now I'm going to go back to 10, nope, to 11, yes, and through 20, and do duplicate, and up, of course, that one messed us up, but that's fine, we'll fix it. And I'm going to add 4 plus 4.5 to Z to get my fourth row. So 40 is here at the end. Let me pull that down here so they aren't all in order. That will make life easy on us later. Looks good. So now let's go ahead and go to row. I'm going to use 21 through 30 and hit duplicate. And then I'm going to add 4.5 to it. Let's see how we are. It's doing the backwards thing. All right. Well, we can deal with this. We want 41 here. 50 should be down here. There we are. Those should be all lined up now. Okay. And in an effort to see if it will work, I'm going to go 1 through 10. No, I'm not. I'm just going to keep going with what we have. So 50 through 41, I'm going to hit duplicate. I'm going to do plus 2.5 here for X, for Z. I'm going to hit enter. Oh, good. It looks like it did those ones in order. So now I'm going to go back to 50 and do 50 through 41 again. I'm going to hit duplicate. Let's see how we did. And it got those in order so far, right? So now I'm going to do plus 4.5 because it needs to go above. And there we are. Let me zoom me out. Now I'm going to go back to 60 and do 60 through 51 and do duplicate and do plus 4.5. Again, why I'm doing the ones behind it is that has been working better than doing the ones immediately beneath. Plus 4.5. And let's see. Nope, I flipped them or it flipped them. So we just got to get them in order. There we are, I think. Yep. Okay, so now I'm going to grab these and duplicate and do plus 2.5 like we have been doing. 2.25 to be clear. It did those in order. Let me duplicate those again and do plus 2.25. It looks like we are going to need to flip them around. Yes. Okay, and 100, 99, 98, 97, 96, 95. We are looking good. So tedious, but this will save us time in the long run. You can trust me on that. I'm loving this. Let's store it all within an empty object. So to do that, let's go ahead. I'm just going to go to game object create empty, and I'm going to call this creatively all tiles. Enter. And now what we'll do is I'm going to start at tile 1 all the way to tile 100. I'm going to hold shift and select all of them and just drop them in here. Ta-da! All of our tiles are contained in that empty object. Okay. A few things we want to do with the tiles is the tiles are going to need a rigid body and a collider. All you need to do is select the first one, drag all the way down. I could have done this before duplicating, but it really doesn't matter either way. So with them all selected, I'm going to add component, and I already have it looked up here, but box, collider, enter. Don't do the 2D one. You don't want that. Add component rigid body, not the 2D one, just a normal. And you're going to want it to be kinetic, or we are. All right, that's looking good. That's looking great. Let's also go ahead and add the script we will need eventually, which is called tile script. I like to be very clear with my naming conventions. New script, tile script, create and add. All right, now let's head towards assets and go ahead and make a folder for our scripts. And I'm going to open that up, and yep, we got that inside. So we have all of our tiles here laid out. It is beautiful. Now is a good time to save. Let's continue on with our objects. Now that we have the game board set up, let's do the ships. So I'm going to kind of hide this. And objects and materials. Nope, just kidding. Ships. And here are my ships. I'm going to throw them out there one by one. I'll start with the carrier because it should be the largest. There we are. And then let's get it set up, and then we'll kind of base the others off of it. Again, you right click to manipulate the view. Just want to make sure on the side, looking good. Okay, little flag, little planes. I'm very proud of those. All right, let's see here. So right now I am at 15. We might as well zero that for now. Let me chase it. And 0y will put us in as anticipated. 1 will put us a bit above. And I'm actually going to have it at 1 because it's kind of a nice effect to have it drop. Maybe we could do a 0.8, something like this. Because as the player selects where they want their piece, it's nice to have the actual motion and movement of it dropping. So I'll put it at 1. Just going to stick that at the default for now. That is looking pretty good. And -90 here. All right. That's all looking good. Let me go ahead then and I can hide all that. We need a collider on this. Box collider is what we need, and then a rigid body. And the only real edits we have to make to this is that's going to all be fine. Is the rigid body constraints. We don't want it to be able to rotate. That will be problematic if we leave that ability on. So I'm going to turn all 3 of those off. And we can go ahead and make our script for our ship, which I'm going to creatively call ship script, because I like to be clear and it makes life simpler. So ship script, there we are. Let me head over to assets now. Ship script is going into the scripts folder. All right. That is looking great. Now, what we'll have going on here is a little dock that allows the player to select what they need and, well, place those items. So to do that, the dock's going to be along the side here. And then when the game starts, we'll just have the dock disappear. Let me make sure I have the right. Yep. We'll have the dock disappear. So let's go ahead and get that dock set up now. I'm going to go into, it should be in miscellaneous and wooden dock. Ooh, that's huge. Boom. All right. Now I'm going to do 0, 0, and 0 just to kind of get it to the standard point. -90 like always. And cha. I want mine on this side. I'm going to look from the top. So 1, 2 tiles, 1, 2 tiles. Kind of in the middle of these third ones. It does not have to be exact at all. I'm just being weird. Okay. Do something like that. Looking good. I want a rigid body on this. And by rigid body, I 100% mean box collider. We do not want a rigid body on this. We don't want it to be able to fall. So here's my box collider. And let me make sure. Yes. And let's just make sure we got all that. And let's head over to it. It's looking like it's... Oh, yikes. Scene. It's stay and put. All right. I can lower it some. I don't need it to actually be touching. That should be fine. And of course, that's going to go back. So let me take a look here. Z is 4.75. I meant to get the Y value. Doing great. Oh, well, that will work. 2.2 for Y for me. Awesome. All right. And now that that is ready, I'm going to go ahead and move my ship over to it. And I'm going to actually flip this because I want it going this way. Since this is the front of the game board, the camera is going to be at a somewhat similar angle to what we're at. I mean, just a lot better. So let me do definitely not that. It would be along the y-axis and 180. Awesome. Move that over a bit. Let's take a look if it's in contact. Nope, it's floating above, which is actually exactly what we want still. Great. All right, one down. Let's get the others then. The next ship I'm going to do, ships, is the 4, which is the Battleship. So I'm just going to drag this out. Boom. And I now know, let's get it roughly in line. It's nice to have the carrier here. So the 30, okay. And then 1 for Y. 1. We also do want to check, and I should have done this from the get-go, is this should be 4 tiles in length. So let me get dead ahead. And we got to make sure that this is actually going to cover 4 tiles. So obviously the size of it is not sufficient for that at the moment. So let's go ahead and do, I don't know, 125, 125. And that is, wow, that was too much. So 115, 115, 115. Take a look. That's a pretty good size. I actually might even go 120, 120. Sure, I'll call that good. So 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles. And it's kind of up to you what you're thinking is the correct scale. I could even have these be disproportional. So maybe I want this at 120 and this at 125. Makes it a bit longer. All right, so that ship's good to go. Let me double check this guy. Yep, so this one's only on 4 as well. We do need it at 5. So I'm going to try the same scenario here. 120. That is immense. I'll do 110. And let's try 110 here as well. So we need this to cover 5 because the aircraft carrier was covering, well, 5. And maybe 115. That looks reasonable to me. Let's just make sure, zoom in here. And again, this is aesthetics. So this is going to definitely be up to you, or how you think things look, how you like them. All right. So for me, 110, I think, is where I'm going to set X and 115 for Y. All right, let me pull this back over, center it up here somewhere. There will probably be adjustments to this as well. I know this is the back of the battleship, so I'm going to do what we did, -90 and then 180. Move this over a teeny bit, keep that at 1, cool. Now I need the rigid body and box collider, and rigid body. And then we want to freeze the rotation on this ship as well. Next up, we have the submarine, which is 3. Although, yeah, let's do this up next. I like this up. Boom. It looks itty bitty. It's not. All right. 0, 0, just to kind of get our bearings on all of this. Oh, no, let's do 1 here. We're going to do -90. And then that looks not as itty bitty anymore. 180 for the rotation is great. Let me pull this over and over. And so the size, obviously, it needs to be 3 for the sub. So it is looking more like a sub of 2-man sub. Subway. So let's change up this size to be, I'm going to do a multiply because there are already different numbers here. So I'm going to say times 1.2 and then times 1.2. Let's see if I'm feeling like that's sufficient. I'm going to multiply both those times 1.1 times 1.1. Looks like a mush sub. So we should have been doing this along with it. Times 1.2, boom. And then I did times 1.1. Okay. And I'm going to continue to add actually. So let's do times 1.1 times 1.1. I'm going to undo all that and just put these numbers in. So here's the sub. I fast forwarded and unfast forwarded just so I can show you the numbers that I have. I'm thinking like a times 1.4 is where we're going to want to be at. Times 1.4. And again, your scale might be different. What you want though is you want the sub to definitely cover 3 tiles. So, and I'm already now, I'm like, maybe I need more than that. Times 1.2 times 1.2 and times 1.2. So we just need it to be covering 3 tiles to work properly. And that's what it does in the original Battleship. So I'm just about there. And now I'm going to go down. So I don't know, 45, 180, 45 we'll say. It is not an exact science. If you like it at a certain size, you should do that size. All right, I'm going to leave mine at 45 because otherwise I'm going to drive myself absolutely crazy with the sizing. So zoop, there we are. There we are. There's our sub. Cool. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the cruiser. The cruiser is actually also 3, and then the only one left after that will be our destroyer, which is 2. For the sub, let's real quick though add that rigid body, click, 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 and add the box collider. Okay. Now this needs to be 3, like I just said. Let me look directly over, do this guy. All right, and that's obviously not 3. Let's do 125, maybe 125, 125. And 135 looks good to me. I need to flip this around like I did with my other ones. First, I'm going to make this -90. To flip it around, I need Y to be 180. And then I'm going to go ahead and, oh, wait a minute. Nope, the front of it's actually this. So this one doesn't need to be flipped around. And now I'm going to go ahead and drop it over here next to our submarine. I'll put this at 1. Great. And finally, our little destroyer. It only needs to be 2. I might give it a bit of a bump up. 110. Just so it looks a bit meatier. It wants to join. Oh, no, that's too large. Putting you on a diet. Okay, 120 all the way across is sounding good to me. This needs to be at 1, and I'm going to pull that over as well. All right. And then we want to make sure we add box colliders and rigid bodies. Rigid body, freeze rotation. And then box collider. Box collider, great. And rigid body, great. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to take a view here and hit run. Oh, we got to move our camera. Fine. Well, actually, I'll just do this. I'm going to pull this over here for a sec so we can actually see him drop. Boom. There we are. So far, so good. Okay, we're getting the initial setup on its way. We need a canvas now. And with that canvas, that's also where we will be implementing a heads-up display. So let me make sure these are all fine. Yep, that is looking great. So I'm just going to move my ships down here and just put them in order because I want to. I'll leave game board there. Destroyer is the smallest. Carrier is the largest. Submarine and right here. And battleship. Yep. Then cruiser. Then destroyer, which is, yeah, the smallest. Okay. So with those up, now let's do a canvas. I'm going to save before I forget. Great. And canvas. So, of course, you can always do game object, UI, canvas. There's always multiple ways to get to everything in Unity. And I'm going to say HUD canvas because that's what it is. I don't anticipate needing another canvas, but it's the specificity is good to have. So this canvas, though, is going to need to be, we want screen space to camera. What camera? This camera. And then why I whispered that, I do not know. That's all fine. Sorting layer. We don't want constant pixel. We want scale with screen size. I'm going to default this to a standard 1080. So X would then be 1920, right? Because X goes across by 1080. Had 1080 on my mind. I was going to make it work, apparently. 1080. Great. So that's going to be our canvas, and let's check where we have it at. Let's go ahead into game mode and do free aspect ratio 16:9. Go back to scene because we're going to want to do that later anyways. And then we also need, we need to be moving this, right? So we obviously don't want it this far away from everything. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up at like, I'm not entirely sure, 10 maybe. Let's take a look. And interesting. So let's pull it over. Oh, what do we got? Yep, I got it. Oh, obviously we need to be moving the camera because the camera is attached to this. So let's do that. Perfect. Now with it attached to the camera, let me get into something really handy I wished I knew in Unity earlier. I'm going to go ahead and get my view right now into the position I think I will stay with for the game. Obviously, you can make, and we will likely make adjustments, but I just want to get it roughly where I'm going to keep it for the entire game. So, yeah, maybe something like this. I have to move over the boats. That is fine, but something like this. Now, what I will do is with the camera selected, I'm going to go to game object, and then I'm going to be align view to, nope. Align with view. So align with view is going to move our camera. It's going to, well, align our camera with our view. Boom. Now you can see what just happened here. I could move it towards the view, but actually I'll go ahead and manipulate the camera directly now. let me click on the camera, and then let's go ahead and apply a rotation to this. So let me see here. It's just a bit probably, and then we can go ahead and manipulate how its exact location as well. Now that we know that the actual view of it is pretty decent. Okay. And I actually might tilt mine a bit more up. Like that, because I'm going to pull it up, I think. And this also is going to be something that is to your liking. There's not really a exact science of how you want to be looking or how you want the user to be looking at the scene. Yep, I'm liking that. And again, I might manipulate it further based on, as we develop this game. So, boom. Cool. All right. Now, I want to move those ships over just to make sure they're in view. So I'm just going to grab one. I'm going to hold shift. You could also just, of course, go like this. And then I'm just going to pull them over a hair. Boom, let go. And let's double check. It's looking better. All right. I'm going to now just move this guy over a little bit. Okay, that is awesome. So we have it all set up. We have our people set up. We have a camera set up. We're going to throw a little text on our canvas real quick, and then we need to dive into some of the manipulation of the actual items. So the first text I'm going to throw on our heads-up display, though, right here. So we have a heads-up display. Yay! UI text. And I will go ahead and use this as the top of the screen text. So what I'll have it start off saying is place your ships. Okay, place your ships. And then I need obviously much larger than that. 55 for now. We can't even see it because I'm going to do overflow. And it's still hard to see, which would make sense. We should also make it white, I was thinking. And then 150. We're getting there. We can go ahead and look at our canvas more head on, or I could split this if I want to see game mode like I was before. So let me grab this text. I should go ahead and change the shape of it so it makes sense, because it's going to bleed over anyways now that I allowed it to overflow, but it just doesn't make sense unless I... All right. Now, this will go at the top of the screen. It will be like, you sunk their battleship, or stuff like that. And a really nice way to make sure you centered something, whoop, is to go all the way across and click center. Pretty sure it's centered. All right. And then I guess that's too large for what we actually need. It's still pretty big. Maybe I need to zoom back our camera though. So I'm going to do 100. We're getting there. I'm going to pull it up a bit. Right about there. And now with the game objects in place and the board well laid out, in the next video, we're going to start with mouse movement and the script used to, well, use raycasting to place our ships. So we're getting to the interactive stuff. Bum, bum, bum. Onward.